Hey guys, this is John Ween, attorney and senior legal instructor with Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training, coming to you today with another search and seizure show. All right. Basically, what we've got here is we just finished our community caretaking webinar, and now we've got officers from across the nation joining us to ask questions, hypotheticals, scenarios regarding what they do each and every day. And so Blue to Gold is here trying to help these officers work through these situations, maybe come up with some applicable case law, and help our law enforcement brothers and sisters across the nation to get it right every time and to make good case law. All right.
Hi. Um,
Claire.
yeah, hi, John. I had a question that I wanted to settle between myself and my squad mate. If someone has a warrant for their arrest, like a misdemeanor warrant, we can't, and they're the sole occupant of their residency, we can't go into their residence for the purpose of finding them, even if we know they're inside, correct? We still need to have some kind of warrant signed by a judge stating we can enter the residence.
Well, let me ask you, what state are you in?
Arizona,
Oh,
land of the free.
home of the brave.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is state dependent, right? Aston came out here
Hmm.
and said state dependent. So California misdemeanor arrest warrants only during certain hours, right? But
Hmm.
the way that it works is an arrest warrant is actually two warrants, right? An arrest warrant gives you authority to take a person into custody against their will, right? A judge has ordered ominous dominus, you shall, but it also gives you access to that person's place of residence. And so if you have a misdemeanor arrest warrant and you are armed with that piece of paper, that judicial permission slip, even if, I guess, even if you don't have the piece of paper, but you just know they have an arrest warrant, right? You don't actually have to have the physical copy of the warrant. That gives you access not only to them, but it also gives them you access to their home, as long as you have reason to believe that they are presently in that residence in
Is
Arizona.
that the case if there are other residents in the home?
If there are other residents,
Yeah.
so like they live
But
in the home and then they have family who also lives there.
yeah, boyfriend, girlfriend, grandpa, whatever, grandma.
Yep. Yeah, I can go in and get them.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
The issue most often occurs when the person with the arrest warrant is in the home of a third party, right?
Okay.
That's usually where we run into issues because the arrest warrant gives me access. It gives me the authority to take that person right away. A judge has ordered me to do that, but it does not give me access to the residence of a third party. So if I'm going into the residence of a third party in order to arrest with a warrant, I need a search warrant for the third party's home and the arrest warrant for the person. If I go into the home of a third party armed only with an arrest warrant, then I have violated the rights of the third party. I have not violated the rights of the person for whom I have the arrest warrant.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Works.
All right.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Stiegold, Shane. Sean's throwing it out there for you. There you go. Right. Same rationale. Right. Same rationale. The case that says you need a warrant for the third party home talks about how you don't need a warrant for first party home. Cool. Sweet. Yeah. All right. Rock and roll. There you go. Okay. There you go. Okay. And no, I'm not citing case law for you. I'm not friggin' Zach Miller. Hmm. Oh, all right. What else we got? Anybody else got a question for me? Are we one and done? Easy peasy? Pumpkin squeezy? Easy. All right. Well, Joel. Joel had a question. Joel. Where are you? This is John.
Hey, John, this is Evan. You
What's up,
know?
buddy? Yeah, I can hear you, man.
All right, good deal. So my question was really just a follow up to the warrant question, but my question was if the wanted subject has one address it listed on NCIC and another one listed on the warrant. Is it only the warrant address that we can enter absent anything else?
Oh, all right. So they got one warrant entered into NCIC, and then the physical copy of the warrant has a different address on it. Is that
No.
right?
So the warrant, the only copy of the warrant that I have access to, it's a digital warrant. I can see it in NCIC, but the subject's listed address, like essentially their DL address, I guess, is a different address.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, ultimately, when we are, when we're applying for an arrest warrant, right? When we're filling out that arrest warrant affidavit, we are listing a residence there, right? We're listing a residence on that affidavit, right? And so ultimately, what we're going to have to do is we are going to have to convince a court that we had reason to believe that they were present in that residence. Okay. And so the reason why we list that in the affidavit is because when we list that in the affidavit, we are also identifying how, and we're convincing a court how we believe that they are in that residence. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm not just saying, and this is one of the things we talk about in our bulletproof report writing class, I'm not just saying the person lives at this residence, give me this golden ticket to go into that residence because the person lives there. I'm telling you why I reached that conclusion. Okay. And so the judicial permission slip is for their residence of record as well. Now, ultimately, I'm going to have to convince them that the judge that they're home. And so, which address am I going to? And then, how am I concluding that they are home? So, if I go to the home listed on the warrant, the digital copy of the warrant, and their car is parked outside, am I reasonable in going into that house?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. If I go to the house that's listed into NCIC, the house that's listed in NCIC is obtained from some other way, right? Like that's like their DMV record and things of that nature. It's prior arrests. Where else would it be coming from? So I go to that residence. Now the question ultimately then becomes is I go to that residence and their car is there, but that's not the residence that listed on the address or on the warrant, right?
Right.
Okay. So again, I don't want to be telling you guys do what you do because nobody's going to have standing, but if they have a constitutionally protected interest in that residence, I have judicial authority to go in and arrest them. Agreed?
Agreed.
Right. And so under Stiegel, the question then becomes if that's a third party's residence, then that's the person whose rights I'm infringing upon, not theirs. But do I have a reasonable basis to believe that that is their address of record and they are presently inside?
Yes.
Yes. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to be violating their constitutional rights by going in and getting them. Makes sense?
Makes sense. So if the address is listed on the warrant, you're basically someone else has already done the legwork for you when they got that warrant, issued by the judge. So we, as the serving officer deputy, kind of have like a blanket legitimacy to enter that location. But if we're going off of an address that's not on the warrant, now we need kind of like a +1. So we have our own articulation of why we believed that was their current residence or location.
I like
as the
that.
arresting officer.
Yes, I like that. Other than that, I wouldn't say you have blanket because you still have to convince me that you presently think they're in that residence. Right? I mean, regardless, even if it's listed on the warrant, I still have to believe that they are presently in there.
Okay. Now, if you don't see a car, they don't have let's say they don't have a vehicle registered to them.
Okay.
But this is the address listed on the warrant, and the warrant was just issued, let's say, this week.
Yep.
And you go to that residence and you see lights on and you hear a TV and you don't have reason to believe there's anyone else in that residence. Is that enough to be able to reasonably make the assumption that it's the wanted subject?
No.
No. Okay.
Nope. So I want the vehicle there. I want surveillance on there. I want to walk up and during normal hours, right? Knock on that door, tap, 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 doing no more than what any member of society could do, right? And then they open the door and I see them there. Or they peek out the side window and I see their face and I'm like, it's you, right?
Right.
There you go. Do I have reason to believe that they're in there?
Yes.
Yeah. Rock and roll.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Awesome.
That was my radio.
No, you're good, man. Hey, how far are you from Stewart?
Stuart, Florida.
Yeah.
I just made that drive for a class a couple weeks ago. I'm about 2 hours from Stuart.
Okay. Well, we're coming to Stewart.
When are you gonna be in Stuart?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up, but I just got notified. Here's what I'll tell you, man. You want to know something about Florida, right? I first started out with this company. I went to Florida a whole bunch of times, and then no one has had me back to Florida. I don't know. I didn't take it personally. I did. But I just got notification that we're coming out to Stewart next year. So
Well, I'll be there.
awesome.
I'll be there.
Awesome, man. I look forward to it.
All right. I'll
Okay.
see you there.
Sounds good, buddy. Be safe out there.
All right, man. Thank you.
Later.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, Nicholas. Okay. Joel. Joel, did you get your situation? Did you get a okay. Okay. Ooh. All right.
Hello.
Joel.
Is it working?
Sounds like it, man.
Perfect. Okay. So earlier Tori had mentioned Colorado versus Brown, and I think like I've been a officer about 10 years ago, but when that case hit, um, pretty much every agency in Colorado seemed to have gotten scared and like we pretty much quit towing everything before. I mean, I'd impound a couple cars a week for no insurance, and after that Colorado Brown case, pretty much nothing.
All right. I think we lost Joel. So, Colorado versus Brown. Okay. Somebody help me out with the facts here. Now, I do know, here's what I'll tell you, right? I do know that I believe that Colorado, specifically Denver, is going to be the state that loses inventory for us. Anybody else on board with that? Right? Anybody else? Yeah, we're taking bets. I think Colorado is going to be the one that loses inventory for us. And my concern is that eventually, at least in the 10th Circuit, we will get to the point where courts are saying, yeah, inventory is fine, but whatever you find during that inventory is going to be inadmissible because it's not for a criminal investigatory purpose. Now, I don't know how they're going to wrap their mind around that, and eventually the United States Supreme Court is going to have to sort them out. But that is the way that we're going in Colorado. Understandably, that is the way we're going in Colorado. I'll tell you guys that Colorado and Washington specifically are struggling with this idea of inventory. Okay? Joel, I lost you. You're back. Joel.
Sorry, battery died.
Joel, tell us the facts of Colorado versus Brown, man. State versus Brown, whatever you want to call it.
All I remember was Aurora basically screwed up. They had a suspended driver, wrote him a summons, and let him go instead of taking him to jail. And then so he was there where he could have cared for his car, but instead they went ahead and towed it because they thought there were drugs in the car, and sure enough, there was.
There you go, right? And so again, this is the same thing that we're talking about, right? This is the same thing that we're talking about. I mean, I talk to officers and they're like, "Hey, like our state law requires us to tow vehicles on suspended licenses, right? So I pull over a vehicle, it pulls into the driveway, and then I arrest the driver for suspended license, and then I have to tow the vehicle." And I'm like, no, right? Like, no, but the state law requires that I tow a vehicle under these circumstances. No, okay? The vehicle is safe. You shouldn't be doing that. I understand that state law may require it in certain circumstances. In Arizona, 283511 was great. Yeah, if somebody's driving on a suspended license is a criminal offense, and then we tow your vehicle and we impound it for 30 days. They've gotten away from that, right? They've gotten away from that. Now it has to be like canceled or revoked or something and not just suspended. But yeah, state law doesn't trump the Fourth Amendment. We need to be reasonable, right? And so if we abuse it, we're going to lose it. And Colorado versus Brown, right? The description that you're giving us there, that wasn't a valid inventory. And because we have bad facts making bad case law, then agencies become gun shy, and now we're not towing anything, right? The bottom line is we need to make sure that officers understand inventory is not an investigatory search, it's an inventory. And so if I have other ways to reasonably and feasibly safeguard this vehicle, I should do it. Yes? And I have officers who are like, no, like every time I tow a vehicle. And I'm like, okay, but do you guys have like a form that like releases liability? And they're like, no, we don't have that. And I'm like, okay, well, your agency needs to get that, right? I need to have on my inventory sheet, it was inventory, and then at the bottom it said, I agree to release and, from all liability, I want to leave the vehicle legally parked. Sign it. And so if the person says, no, don't tow my vehicle, I want to leave it legally parked, I don't care who breaks into it, I don't care what's stolen out of there, I'll sign that. Great, sign it, and I'll leave the vehicle legally parked. However, there is a firearm in there. It's present. Nope, we're taking that. We're taking that. We're doing that under Kitty versus Dombrowski, and that's completely separate from any other investigatory purpose. I'm taking that and I'm putting it into safekeeping, and you can come get it when you get out, assuming you are not a prohibited possessor. But yeah,
In a
bottom
case
line is
of like
that,
a
man.
suspended driver, like I'm not really caring about that, but like when you have an uninsured vehicle and no registration,
Mhm.
how can it be legally parked? I guess is some of my question. And those are the ones. It's like, how can agencies go back to being able to legally tow those
Mm.
when this person doesn't have insurance? It's a hazard on the side of the road at that point in some ways.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's illegally parked, that's a separate issue, right?
Well, it's legally parked per se, but it doesn't
Okay.
have insurance and doesn't have plates.
Okay. It doesn't have plates, and in your state, does your registration or insurance statute qualify a vehicle being parked on the roadway as operating?
I don't have an answer to that. That's a good question.
Yeah, so that is a question, right? And that's a question that we need to suss out, because if the vehicle is parked on the roadway, the side of the road, it's legally parked, it doesn't have plates on it, but under my state statute, any vehicle parked, any vehicle present on the roadway has to display registration. Well, then that vehicle is sitting there and it is actively violating the law. I can't just leave that vehicle there. So there's my justification. There's my reason for towing it.
So yeah, if Colorado says that that in order to be legally parked you have to have plates,
Yep,
then you can't leave something that's not legally parked.
I agree. Because
And
then, and again, right, this is,
we have to figure that out.
you do have to figure that out. And the only way that you're going to be able to figure that out is by doing it and then effectively articulating the reasonableness of your actions. But the situation where I stop a vehicle, I cite the driver and release him, and then I say, hey, do you want to get all of your crap out of this car before I inventory it? Well, I don't know how anywhere to put it. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to start the tow truck. When the tow truck arrives, we're done. If you want to get stuff out of your car before then, help yourself. By all means, make my job easier. Please take as much of it as you can. You got other people coming who have, registered vehicles and can take all your crap and put it in their car, please do, right? The problem is we're not doing those things. We're not, right? Officers across the nation are not doing that. Instead, I am treating inventory like carte blanche to search vehicles.
No, that makes sense. I'm more frustrated like because we keep stopping the same vehicle with no insurance and no plates and or fictitious plates, and it's like, why can't we just impound this darn thing?
Yeah. So here's what I'd ask, man. If you would, shoot me an email, john@bluetogold.com. John@bluetogold.com. And let's get to the bottom of this. Tell me what state you are, right? And what are we going to do? What does Colorado versus Brown actually say? Under what circumstances is it controlling? And under what circumstances is it not?
Okay,
We'll get you some direction.
cool. Appreciate it. Thank
Awesome.
you.
No, it's my pleasure, man. That's why we're here. You be safe out there, buddy.
Thanks.
All right. In the case of Georgia versus Randolph, the Supreme Court of the United States addressed the issue of whether a warrantless search of a residence is lawful with the permission of one occupant. All right. Nobody's got questions. All right. How does the case presented in the community caretaking slides featuring finding the person in the street differ from finding someone passed out in their car? All right. So, Derek, here's the thing, man. Ultimately, the issue with finding the person in the street, okay? I pick this dude up. He's got cuts on his face. He's got cuts on his hands. He's laying in the floor on the floor like he's a tarp. I'm worried somebody's going to run this dude over, right? And so what do? I pick him up and try to handcuff him, at which point he starts fighting me. And then I arrest him for aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. I go into his pockets and I find drugs. Okay. And so you look at that and you say, is that community caretaking? I scrape the dude off the floor. I say, hey, man, why are you laying in the street? Can you start me 904? Can you start me fire? Right? This guy's having some kind of a medical emergency. Fire comes out. He refuses. I say, hey, man, I'm worried, brother. Like, if I leave, are you just going to lay back down in the street? And he's like, no, I'm good. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm good. History, mental illness, involuntary committal. Maybe if we're going to go that way. But ultimately, the officers hooked that dude up. And no crime was suspected of being occurring. We were doing it for community caretaking. Handcuffs are only reasonable during detention if you can articulate risk of fight or risk of flight. The officers failed to articulate that there. And so is it truly community caretaking, or are we doing this for some other kind of criminal investigatory purpose? Make sense? Okay. All right. What if you have a warrant for a suspect at a listed address, but the home has an illegal shed on it with AC systems and power with unknown individuals inside? Can you enter the curtilage to knock on the sheds? So, again, like, yes, because ultimately, here is the point. If you are going to say that those are like separate dwellings, what is going to be yellow to those? There's going to have to be some way, right, that they're gaining access to that. Now, if you are creeping up and opening gates and walking up the side of houses and stuff, I mean, we're going to have issues there, okay? Again, you're going to need to tell me that you have reason to believe that that person is present at that residence, okay? So if I'm doing surveillance, I see him roll up, we go up, we hit the main house, he's not in the main house. Can I then go check those sheds? Kathy says yes, and I agree. Arrest warrants. The problem with the idea of the arrest warrants class is that it is state specific, right? We have our search warrant case law class, and we talk about arrest warrants in there, but the problem is that it is so state specific because the arrest warrants are going to be generated, right, for state law enforcement under state law. So what you can and can't do is going to be limited by state law. Cool. All right, guys. Well, if we got nothing else, man, I appreciate the input. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate you guys being here with us. It's a lot of fun. But my pleasure. I am going to head to bed. If you guys can, right? Please make sure you do give me that review. I would greatly appreciate it. It does mean a lot. It helps us spread the good word, getting this life and career saving information out to your fellow law enforcement officers. So thank you guys all so much. Be safe out there. God bless you. I hope to see you guys at another training soon. Until then, make good case law.